Hello.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're another minute. I want to ask anybody that you keep your thing on mute. Even though I'm not going to force to mute. Everybody's on mute. If you can keep it on mute until we're going to give people the capability to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So if anybody can stay on mute, that will help us out, so it doesn't hear any background noise. Do you hear me? Yeah, I'm available. You can hear me. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you all here tonight to this get together on the as when people talk, it's very hard. If everybody can mute themselves when they're not speaking, that will be something good for everybody. Welcome all tonight as we come closer to July 4th, which is first of all a celebration in America. But in 1976, it was a celebration in America, it became a celebration, a day of miracles for the Jewish nation. And we all know the story of Entebbe, and we all know the miracle then, that it was a miracle that happened in the Jewish nation, and it's a unbelievable miracle. The Eibusher God showed unbelievable miracles in Israel that he would take them out of tzar and out of pain and out of great suffering, and he would do it through the hands of the Jewish IDF, from the own army that would go there as commandos and save Jews from the oppressors. It hasn't happened in thousands of years. And the Rebbe said an expression then, as I read today in the morning, this story of the Rebbe on this happening. The Rebbe said then in 1976, after the story of Entebbe, the Rebbe said all these commandos who went on Mesiras Nefesh, who went on self-sacrifice to save Jews, have a place in Olam Haba, for sure place in the world to come, because they put their lives on the line for another Jewish person, which guarantees them, the Rebbe said, and that's a quote from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that guarantees our place in Olam Haba. So this is, as we come to July 4th, this weekend, it couldn't be a better time than to have this get together and to meet two very special people. Extremely special people. One of them, everybody knows. Most of us know on this Zoom, and that is Dr. Moshe Peres, who was a hostage in Entebbe, and he's going to first tell us the beginning of the story. And we have on the line also the hero of that story, and one of the IDF commandos, Reuven Sassi Reuven, who is going to speak to us as one of the commanders of that miracle, that the Eibusher made him a vehicle to bring about a Nes Hashamayim, a great miracle of the Eibusher. So it's truly a great honor to have both of these people on the line. And I know they came together in the past, and I'm going to ask Dr. Moshe Peres to start off this evening, and then we will ask Sassi. Is that the Hebrew? What's the Hebrew? That's the first name? Sasson. Yeah. Sasson V'Simcha. He's then going to also speak to us. I'm asking again always, if everybody can please put yourself on mute when you are not gonna, when you're not speaking, so that we shouldn't have any background noise. Dr. Moshe Perez, if you could please, I don't see where you are right now. Dr. Moshe Perez?
Yes, can you see me?
Yeah. How can I see? One second.
When he speaks, it will go.
It doesn't.
I'm next to Sassi.
One second. How do I?
Just hit speaker view.
I know, but it's
Okay, I'm back on, Rabbi, if you need any help.
Yes, how do I unpin? I pinned him, and now he's the only one who's there.
If you want, you can make me a host and I'll.
Okay. Dr. Perez, you can speak. You should be able to see you.
All right, well, welcome everyone. This is a great opportunity to share my particular experiences, which at the time I never thought is going to have such a huge impact, not only the Jewish nation, but the entire world. So the really story starts a week earlier than that. The story starts on the previous week when I really missed my flight to Paris from Tel Aviv. And I was extremely elated because it gives me the opportunity to stay with my family, my beloved family, for another week. They pampered me, they loved me, and it was a blessing that I had another week to stay. So the story goes, we got to the airport, we took off, and of course we were told that this is a direct flight to Paris. And again, for anybody who's flying nowadays, keep in mind when they say direct, it does not mean that it's not non-stop, okay? So direct means that it goes from A to B, but it can have a couple of stopovers. So at that time, we were aware that Athens was kind of a haven for terrorist groups that could fly from Arab countries and create quite a lot of havoc from Greece itself. So when we landed in Greece, certainly a little degree of anxiety came on, but I was quite elated when we took off around 12 o'clock at noontime from Athens on the way to Paris. Now, while we're waiting in Athens airport, several people, of course, boarded the plane since it was kind of a stopover. And there was a lady, a Moroccan lady, sitting maybe 2 aisles further up across me. And she saw these individuals climbing up on the airplane, and she starts screaming, "These are terrorists. These are terrorists. Get them out of here." Of course, everybody thought this lady is a Meshugana. She's crazy. What does she know? A little emotional lady. Everybody quieted it down. The terrorist himself was carrying boxes with ropes around it. Told her these are actually presents for kids. So finally, the plane took off, and it wasn't more than maybe 10 minutes into the flight, around 12:10, 12:15, that we noticed a stewardess running towards the front with a panicked look on her face. That's when I picked up my Air France vomit bags and started to scribble down all the communication that happened after that, which was basically included in the book, which was written later on called 90 Minutes in Entebbe. I have no royalty to that from that. I donated all my diaries for the benefit of the public. But in any case, the captain that came on, it was not really the captain, but the new captain that said that he was the new captain of the airplane named Haifa, okay? And that now under the control of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, I can't remember which faction it was, and that we are flying to another destination. So about an hour later, the plane lands we see ourselves approaching a beach, and somehow I guess that we are in Benghazi. I don't know why, but the name immediately came, and it turned out to be that was the case, that we're in Benghazi, Libya. Soldiers were lying on the tarmac on both sides with guns pointing at the airplane. The airplane landed. Everybody felt pretty happy. They thought that the ordeal was over. And then after 3 or 4 hours, the plane took off again. Now, several people got off the plane. One lady who was pregnant claimed that she has labor and so forth, and was allowed to be taken off the plane. And then we took off. It was into the dark by that time. We're thinking where we're flying to, and people made all kinds of guesses as to where our destination is going to be. Some people thought we're flying into Tel Aviv because that would have been a natural place for a terrorist plane to land and create quite a lot of hostage situation and demands. Some other people thought it's flying into an Arab country, but around 3 o'clock in the morning, we heard an announcement, again, coming from the new captain of the Haifa plane, saying that we are now about to land in Uganda. Uganda? What the heck is Uganda? You know, I'd never been to Africa before. But I remember it was pretty cold in the plane. I covered myself with newspapers as a way to try to keep myself warm. And we landed. We landed towards morning, probably was around, I think, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. And immediately everything seems to have come to a relaxed state of mind. It looks like they opened up the doors leading to stairs. They put a little rope or a belt across to prevent people from going out. But everybody thought it was over. Okay, we're in Uganda. We're in a different country. In another half an hour, we'll collect our suitcases and we're going to be on our merry way. So that's really kind of the story leading to the hijacking. I can stop right here and let Sasi take over in terms of discussing his point of view about what's happening from the other side of the world.
Thank you, Moshe, very, very much. I appreciate it. I'm first of all, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Rabbi Bukit and Rabbi Kramer. And this is my second time in Boca Raton, but with you guys the first time. I am so happy to be with you. So I usually do my presentations with PowerPoint presentations, and I show a lot of what happened over there. I always start with one slide that summarizes what happened in Entebbe and why it happened. It's in Hebrew, and I'll translate it. It says, "Ela shebechol dor vador עומדים עלינו לכלותנו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם." So in every generation, they will try to destroy our people, the anti-Semites, and God saves us from their hand. And what happened actually, I'm just reiterate what's going on. As Moshe said, the Air France flight 139 took off from Ben Gurion Airport with a stopover in Athens. In Athens, 38 passengers deplane and 58 passengers boarded the flight. Among those people who boarded the flight, there were 4 terrorists, 2 Germans and 2 Arabs. Shortly after takeoff from Athens, they hijacked the flight, and immediately they told the pilot to divert the flight to Benghazi, Libya. So they landed, if I'm not mistaken, at around 3 p.m. in Benghazi, Libya, and the airplane and of course, soldiers from the Libyan government were right there. And the terrorists actually, let me go back. The passengers, among them, of course, Moshe, one of the passengers, her name is Patricia Martel. Patricia Martel stood up and told the terrorist that she is pregnant and she wants to leave the aircraft, otherwise she will die or something like that. They told her sit down immediately. And then 20 minutes later, she stood up and screamed at them. She said, I'm bleeding, I must leave. And from what I understood, a doctor from the back of the aircraft told the terrorist that she is going to die. They let her leave. Her name is Patricia Martel. She had dual citizenship, Israeli and British citizenship. They immediately took her to a hotel, and she was met by the British consul in Benghazi, Libya. He took her under his wings, and he even gave her a tour in Benghazi, Libya. And the next day, she flew back to Great Britain. When she flew to Great Britain, she met by the MI6, MI5 is like CIA and FBI, told them everything about what's going on. And they, in return, they gave all the information to the government of Israel. Now, the biggest question, why Uganda? In 1972, Idi Amin, the president of Uganda, came for a diplomatic visit in Israel, and the government of Israel took him to several places to show him the Air Force, show him the infantry soldiers and other places in Israel. When Idi Amin saw those airplanes in one of the Air Force bases, he told the Israeli delegation, he said, I want those airplanes for my Air Force. They asked him why, and he claimed, I want to destroy Tanzania. Okay, the government of Israel did not say anything because Tanzania is actually ally of Israel. So what Idi Amin did, he stayed in Israel for several more days and flew back to Uganda. And 2 weeks later, he called the government of Israel and asked the government of Israel, what's going on? Why I need to wait for so long? I told you, I want those jet fighters for my army. I want to destroy Tanzania. And the diplomat in Israel told him, you are not getting any airplane to destroy Tanzania. Tanzania is an ally of Israel. Idi Amin was very, very upset. He said, I'm the president of Uganda. They quietly said, you're not the president of Israel. So immediately, Idi Amin was very, very upset, and he cut all the diplomatic relationship with Israel. He took all his diplomatic mission from Israel back to Uganda, kicked all the diplomatic mission from the Israeli diplomatic mission from Uganda to Israel, and also the military attaché. And he turned to be the advocate for all the Arab countries, and not only that, he became the advocate for the Palestinian cause. So what happened with the hostages day by day? So between June 26 and 29, they separated the Jews from the rest of the passengers. 3 more Arab terrorists joined the 4. Now we're totaling 7 terrorists, 248 passengers. Their demand was the release of 53 terrorists from various countries, 40 from Israel, 5 from France. From France, they want not only 5 terrorists, they wanted $5 million in cash. And when the government, the French government asked them, why from us you want $5 million in cash and from the rest of the countries you don't want? They said, this is a punishment because you helped the government of Israel form the nuclear program, which is true. Also, the rest of the people they wanted, the terrorists they wanted, they were from Kenya, Germany, and Switzerland. And they said, if those demands will not be met by July 1st, we will start killing the Jewish passengers. The government of Israel did all the negotiation with the terrorists through the French government. So Israel told the French government to tell the terrorists, hey, listen, we can't be ready by July 1st. The only time we can be ready probably by July 4th. And we're asking for extension. So they granted the extension. This July 4th is tomorrow, actually. And it was the bicentennial Independence Day of the United States. So between June 30th and July 1st, the terrorists released 148 non-Jewish passengers, supposedly non-Jewish passengers. There were some, you know, it's very easy. They took the passports and they start looking. Cohen is Jewish, you stay with the Israelis. And Friedman and Feldman and Greenberg and all those names, there were some Jews, didn't have those names. And they claimed that they're not Jews. So among those passengers that were released, some of them, non-Jewish passengers, some of them were Jews. And then, of course, they agreed to extend the deadline to July 4th. In this aircraft, there were two very, very important people. One, I call him a hero. It's Michel Bacos, is the pilot. This pilot is amazing. He was told or was demanded by the terrorists to leave with the non-Jews. He said, I'm not leaving. Those passengers are my passengers, not your passengers. I'm not leaving. I have to be with my passengers. They told him, you are arrogant, and when we start killing the Jews, you will be the first one. He said, that's fine. Those are my passengers. Michel Bacos, because he was such a hero, in Israel, there are names of streets after him. There are parks named after him and even libraries named after him. He passed away on March of last year, about a little bit more than a year ago. Amazing, amazing person. And I just want to tell you, when the passengers left Entebbe, Michel Bacos and his crew were sitting right there on the floor with all the passengers next to Moshe, and the pilot from the Israeli pilot that flew all the way to Kenya came to the belly of the aircraft and told the pilot, Michel Bacos, told him, Mr. Bacos, your place is in the cockpit. You need to come with me to the cockpit. It was just very, very amazing, heroic person. The other person that was right there happened to be a friend of mine. I know her very, very well. She was a hostage, like Moshe. Her name is Nili Tulipman Ben-Dor. Nili Tulipman was the daughter of Yosef Tulipman. Yosef Tulipman was the former director of the Israeli nuclear program. And the government of Israel was fearing that the terrorists will reveal that Nili Tulipman is the daughter of Yosef Tulipman, and then they will put different price tag on her head versus the rest of the passengers. Luckily, they didn't know. But the government of Israel was very, very worried. So what happened in the military side, the military and the Israeli intelligence side? On Wednesday, June 30th, 3 days after the hijack, I was posted in the Golan Heights. I was a commander of a platoon. And we were serving right there in the Golan Heights. During the day, half of us stay in the bunkers overlooking the Syrian enemies, and half of us go inland for training. We never stop training. Never stop training. The Israeli Army Intelligence also sent these days, they released in 2 waves, the terrorists released in 2 waves, 148 passengers to Paris. They flew them to Paris. Those passengers that I told you, non-Jewish passengers, that among them there were some Jews. So they questioned the passengers. They went there with the blueprint of the terminal in Entebbe. How did we have those prints? There were two, actually, one, a very, very great hero by the name Michel Cojot. Michel Cojot was one of the passengers, one of the hostages, and he was a Nazi hunter. If you will look in the internet, you'll find a very tragic story about him. His father used to be a Nazi hunter, and one day, Michel, when he was 5 years old, that was really attached to his father, wanted to fly to Germany with his father to check paperwork about some Nazi officers. Luckily, his father told him, "You stay home. I'm not taking you right now anywhere." It ended up that his father was murdered by Nazis in Germany. They discovered that he is looking for Nazis to document them and for them to pay the price. So Michel Cojot, the hostage, was writing everything possible, like as much information possible about the terrorists and what time they changed their guard, and who's a nice terrorist, who is not nice terrorist. And also he had a camera inside his bag, and he took pictures. And when the Israeli government went to Paris to interview all the passengers, they of course took the blueprint. How Israel managed to have the blueprint of the airport of Uganda? It's not, a lot of people think that the Israelis got the blueprints because Israel built the old terminal of Entebbe. Not true. What happened back in the days, in the early 60s, Israel had a lot of civil engineers. I happen to be a civil engineer too. A lot of civil engineers trying to build the country. Civil engineering is mainly roads, building roads, bridges, and everything. And one of the engineers, an Israeli engineer by the name Yitzhak Gadish, he was approached by somebody from the government. They told him, "We want you to give us a price. How much would it be to renovate the terminal?" Yitzhak Gadish doesn't do construction. He does road, civil engineering. So he went to Kampala, picked the plans of the terminal, put them in his bag, and the next time he flew to Israel, he put the plans in his office in Ramat Gan, wasn't planning on going to give them a price for the project. So fast forward 1976, somebody, a friend of Yitzhak Gadish, remember that Yitzhak Gadish had those plans. He called him at 10 o'clock at night. He said, "Iche, tell me, do you still have those plans that you took from the Ugandan?" He said, "What are you talking about? I'm retired. I sold my business, my office, and everything." He said, "We have to try to see, maybe it's still there." And he said, okay. 1 a.m., they drove to the old office of Yitzhak Gadish, and guess what? He found the plans. He found the plans 7 years later. So they took those plans, they made copies, the government of Israel. When they flew all the way to Paris to question the passengers, Michel Cojot, they showed him all the plans, and he marked on the plans. He said, over here we have a bathroom, over here there is a mezzanine floor, over here we have an opening, over here, and he told them where all the terrorists standing. Also, the other terrorists, the other passengers that were released gave a lot of information. So the army, the Israeli army intelligence, managed to put all the plan and all the blueprints. They put it together and immediately flew back to Israel and redrew the plans in order to build a small replica of the old terminal in Entebbe, Uganda. And those soldiers that went into the old terminal where Moshe was, were training day in and day out on this replica of the terminal. Michel Cojot passed away. Great guy, passed away several years ago. In 1999, he passed away, almost 10 years ago. So then the following day, July 1st, 1976, the Israeli Army intelligence, actually not the Israeli, first of all, a very strange aircraft flew from Kenya, from Nairobi, all the way to Entebbe, Uganda. It was a single engine or twin engine Cessna, and started circling the airport of Uganda. So the control tower in Entebbe contacted him. He said, "What's going on? You want to land? The runway is open for you." He said, "Yes, I want to land." And he started circling the airport lower and lower and lower and lower. And then he kept going and flying back up. They asked him what happened. He said, "I have a problem with the engine. I don't want to take a chance that my engine, I will have a problem over here. I better go back to wherever I came from in order to fix the engine." They flew all the way back to Kenya, and this was an Israeli pilot, and behind him was sitting one of the best Israeli aerial photographers. They took pictures, it took 41 pictures of the airport in Uganda. I just want to take you several steps ahead. You will not believe it. Back in the days, the size of a picture is almost a half of a cell phone. 3 by 5 centimeter or 5 by 7 centimeter, very, very small. So minutes before we took off to fly to Uganda, they gathered my crew, 15 guys, and we all hugged each other in order to see. It was a small picture. They showed us a small black and white picture, and they said, "You are going right there." Okay, thank you. Like we know, it's just a building. We don't know anything, but we knew approximately where we need to head toward. In Nairobi, El Al Israel Airlines Boeing 707 was waiting right there with passengers, delayed for about an hour until this Cessna with the pilot and the aerial photographer and the cameras with the films boarded the flight. When they boarded the flight, took off and arrived to Israel, and they made copies of the pictures and start doing all the planning. They did all the planning even before July 1st. So at that time, on July 1st, I was with my platoon in the Golan Heights, And at around 10 o'clock at night, a knock on the door in my barrack. My soldiers were in the bunker. I was in the barrack. And the secretary of the Lieutenant Colonel, Nehemia Tamari, she said, "Sasi, Nehemia wants you to be ready for a battle." When I was, by the way, the luckiest person in my unit, the luckiest, because for the time that Nehemia joined my unit to be a commander of my unit, he took me to every single infantry mission for the time that he was in the unit. And I was lucky. I did a lot of mission. And when she said, "You need to be ready for a battle," it was about 10 o'clock at night. I know exactly what to do. I called 3 of my soldiers from the bunker. I said, "Come over, I need your help." And they came and said, "How can we help you?" By the way, all my soldiers are you already graduated all the training, and every one of them was a commander. So they could call me by my name. They needed to call me sir. They call me by my name. I give them order. They fulfill everything. If they have a suggestion, they come to me and said, "What do you think? Can we do this first? Is it okay or not?" And then I decide. But it's okay if they will approach me. I'm not like, it was like mutual respect level. So what happened, I asked 3 guys to come over. They came over. I said, I have my 10 magazines on my gear. I need you to empty all the magazines and put different bullets. Because in my magazine, the cartridge of the gun, I had 25 bullets, if I'm not mistaken. And every 5 bullets, I have 1 tracer. Tracer bullet is a bullet with fire that you can see the trace where the bullets go. And during war or something like that, you shoot with some tracer bullets in order to see that you reach the target. But in infantry mission, you don't do those things because you don't have time. You don't correct the target. You shoot because then your regular alertness. So I told them to help me put just black bullets. We remove all the bullets, put new bullets, all of them, no tracer. I checked my knife and everything, and all the time I was ready. We were ready for a battle. So about 1 o'clock at night, somebody hung for the jeep. He said, I came to pick you up. Tell me where to go. I said, you go, take me to bunker 111. So took me to bunker 111 in the west side of the Golan Heights. Actually, the north side of the Golan Heights. And he took me to, said, go to bunker 111, drove for 15 minutes. There were soldiers in the bunker. The guy that guarding the entrance of the bunkers stood right there, looked at me, opened the gate and the barbed wires and everything. And I got in. No information, nothing, zero. I thought we are going for infantry mission to the Syrian side. But I know that we don't work this way. In order to go for a mission, you first of all need to have a dry run, need to have a model. A model is like what the soldiers that went to the old terminal, they train on that model. If we need to attack something and a structure in Lebanon or Syria or whatever, we need to train on a structure. This time, it was very surprising to me. Just nobody told me anything. Just told me, wait in bunker 111. It was very hot. I was waiting outside of the bunker, and that's it. By 2 o'clock, more soldiers, commanders, and came and arrived to this bunker from several areas of the Golan Heights, all of them from my unit. All of them in a senior level. When I said senior level, means senior level as far as expertise. As we were toward the end of the time, the service in the army, I had 5 more months before before I finished the service. And we were trained to fight in high-rise building, on a beach shore, on high terrain and low terrain, everywhere. So we were most of us were experts. So there were already 20 that came from different parts of the Golan Heights, and everybody asking everybody, what's going on? Nothing, nobody knows. All of a sudden, a civilian bus came over and arrived. We hopped on the bus and we drove off to the inland to Israel. We are going Arza, like we are going to Eretz Israel, like the Golan Heights is not ours. We are going to the country. So they drove us all the way to an army base near Petah Tikva. It's in a village by the name Kfar Sirkin, named Sirkin. And they took us right there and they told us, go ahead, sit over there next to the eucalyptus trees, and we will give you more information later. So from 20, we became 28. More soldiers from my unit with the same expertise joined us, and we were sitting under the eucalyptus trees. And this army base used to be like been in the 50s and early 60s as an Air Force base. This base became a totally different for infantry soldiers, and you had runway over there in that army base. So what happened, we were sitting right there, and like we are maybe 3 meters from the runway itself, under the eucalyptus trees. All of a sudden, a huge aircraft, Hercules C-130, landed right there. This Hercules C-130, we jumped from that aircraft, parachuting and for other exercise. It's a huge aircraft. This aircraft, the wingspan is 120 feet. Nose to tail is 101 feet. And the height is about 40 feet. I have to tell you, it's about 38 feet. So this aircraft can take 64 paratrooper and can take 7 cargo pilots, can take a helicopter with the blades folded, and can take even 3 trucks. When we sit in that aircraft and we are ready to jump for a parachuting exercise, and so when we arrive like about 1,200 feet above the target, the red light is blinking next to the door where we are ready to jump. So when we see the red light blinking, it means we need to get ready to jump. And then when the green light is blinking, we jump one after the other. And I have to tell you, it's somebody from my unit, all the heroes in the world, tell you that it's such a great pleasure jumping. Just don't believe anybody. It's not a pleasure. 4.5 seconds of free fall is not fun. But immediately after the aircraft, after the parachute deployed, this is the best 30 to 40 seconds you can imagine. So this aircraft landed, and the pilot dropped down the ramp at the back of the aircraft, and all of a sudden, Mercedes-Benz, black Mercedes-Benz, they used to be white a night before. This Mercedes-Benz was driven from the outskirts of the base, came all the way to the aircraft, and went up and down into the aircraft, up and down, in other words, drove to the aircraft and back out, drove to the aircraft and came out. Now, this Mercedes had an Arab license plate. Immediately after Yom Kippur, there were a lot of Mercedes-Benz from Jordan or something like that. So the Israeli army bought, purchased, confiscated, or just took this Mercedes-Benz. It was a white Mercedes. The biggest question, as everybody probably think, that the Israelis wanted to trick the Ugandan army that Idi Amin come to visit them, come to visit hostages. It's not true. Every Ugandan lieutenant colonel and higher in rank received black Mercedes, entourage of black Mercedes and 2 Land Rovers. Guess what? They could not find an identical Mercedes with a black color. So they took the white color, the white Mercedes that they could find, and with the spray paint on Thursday night, they start painting the Mercedes. And this is the story of the Mercedes. Yes, the Israeli army wanted to trick the Ugandan guards that high official is approaching. In other words, Mercedes-Benz and 2 Land Rovers. So this is the story of the Mercedes. So after they checked the Mercedes inside the aircraft, the the Mercedes drove off back to wherever they came from, and all of a sudden, this aircraft took off, and another aircraft landed, another Hercules C-130. When the Hercules C-130 landed, we at that time, we had a meeting. We had a briefing with our commander. It was a lot of activity in this army base. There were a lot of soldiers from many units. So our commander, Nehemiah Tamari, was standing in front of us and start pointing to some of the soldiers. This is the worst moment for every infantry soldier, the worst. Why? It means you are deleted from the mission. And no soldier wants to be deleted from any mission. One. And some of them start arguing. You don't argue with the lieutenant colonel. I could because it was a special case. And not argue, just talking like on a mutual level. And what happened, he told, from the 28th, he told 13 soldiers, you go home. And when he started pointing, he said, you know, you are staying. And I laughed at myself. I said, of course I'm staying, because I am the one with the radio. He needs me with the radio. And I didn't have only radio. I had all my gear, gun, and everything. And on top of it, I had the radio. And it's PRC 77 in the U.S. Army. So this after everybody left, he shrink the crew from 28 to 15. And then we were called to the aircraft. They gathered 90 soldiers, 90 soldiers, and they came over and they said, they told us, they opened the ramp of the aircraft, and they told 90 of us, go all the way to the front of the aircraft. So we were all the way in the front of the aircraft. They didn't want us to move like from the center of the aircraft. You stay as close to the cockpit. That's what we did. 90 of us with all the gear and everything, and we are talking to each other and said, what's going on? Are we going to a mission and we don't know? They didn't tell us even what's going on. Actually, they told us we are going to Entebbe, but they didn't train us. So after 20 minutes, they told us just leave the aircraft. So we left the aircraft. The pilot closed the ramp and took off. When we left, I saw 3 trucks right there on the runway. One truck, they told us, we want to change our uniform, because we were stink already. There's 3 days, no shower, nothing. But I didn't want, because I have problems with the brand new uniform. I have rash and all those things. I stayed with the stinky uniform. And the second truck was with ammunition and sort of arsenal of guns. So they told us, if you want different gun for the mission, AK-47, Galil, or M16, or Uzi, whatever you want, you go change your gun. If you want more ammunition, bullets, or hand grenades, or whatever, go to that truck. I didn't need anything. The last truck was electronic testing utility vehicle. I said to myself, I have a radio. Why shouldn't I go and test the radio? I have this radio for 6 months already. Everything is okay. Why don't I just go? I'm going to fly so far away. I need to know if it's going to work or not. So they tested the radio. Every radio comes with extra battery, extra aerial antenna, and extra handset. So they tested it and said, listen, everything is perfect. I said, thank you very much. I left with my radio. And then they called me back and said, hey, you know what? Come over. I said, yes. Said, we have a brand new radio over here. Why don't you take the brand new radio? Said, why not? Perfect. I took the brand new radio. I gave them mine, and I couldn't test the radio because I did not have the frequency for the mission. They did not give us the frequency for the mission yet. It was Friday, July 2nd. It was 19 hours before we left. So I left with the radio. I turned it on. I could see the red light, and I could see also I pressed the button of the handset, and I could see that it's working. Okay, that's it. At that point, they called us, the 15 guys in my unit. They called us, and they told us, listen, you need to get ready for dry run. So, okay, as I told you, every mission you need to have a dry run in order not to be surprised at the actual mission. So we were with our gear, 15 soldiers. They put some personnel. They took us to the field right there. They put 4 fence posts, and then they put also white marking tape. And they said that our mission is to go to the new terminal, not the old terminal where the hostages with Moshe were. They told us, you are going to attack the new terminal. The government of Israel anticipated 200 Ugandan soldiers in the new terminal. They thought they will divide the hostages to 2 parts, some in the old terminal, some in the new terminal. And they speculate that airport employees will be there, police and passengers. And then they told us, attack. We attack that 4 post with the white marking tape. And they told us, that's it. This was like 15 minutes of training for the raid on Entebbe mission from my crew, my specific crew. So we went under the eucalyptus trees, and that's what we did. We went under the eucalyptus trees happily, and everybody into himself. And by the way, in the morning when we arrived, the food we received, they brought us a bucket of hard-boiled eggs, and they brought us a bucket of pita and a bucket of brown water. They said, it is coffee. I said, thank you very much. And then around, after the training that we had, the dry run, they brought lunch under the eucalyptus trees. They brought us bucket of hard-boiled eggs, bucket of pita, and bucket of water. Okay, thank you. And then dinner, Friday night dinner, again, they brought us a bucket of hard-boiled egg, a bucket of, probably you think it was pita, but they gave us challah. Challah, because it was Shabbat, and water. Additionally, they gave us white hats, and like dance caps. So, you know, everybody into himself. All night long, we slept under the eucalyptus trees, and you can't sleep. You cannot sleep. The adrenaline is kicking in. And like at around 4 o'clock in the morning, you see lights already. The light came. And about 9 o'clock in the morning, Mercedes-Benz and 2 Land Rovers arrived into the field right there. The license plate of the Mercedes-Benz was changed from the Arab license plate in Arabic to 2 words in Hebrew, Nisui Beton, concrete testing. Go figure. They told us jump on the vehicles, and it was the first one was the Land Rover, and then the Mercedes-Benz, and then another Land Rover jumped on the vehicles with soldiers from other units, and we drove off 15, 20 minutes to Ben Gurion Airport. adjacent to Ben Gurion Airport, where the runway is for commercial flights, there is another airport, is military airport that hosts the Hercules C-130. So we were taken to Air Force Base number 27, and they put us behind a huge wall, and all the three cars left us. They said, do not move from behind this wall. The main reason was, what happened, a lot of people they love aircraft. A lot of people like to take pictures of aircraft and with binoculars. I was the head of the Israeli Airlines security in Los Angeles, in LAX. And my office was on the runway in LAX. Every aircraft that take off or land is another excitement. So even now, 1,000,001 years after I'm not doing anything about security, I go and I pick up people from the airport, relatives, my kids, and then I go an hour ahead of time, and then I just gaze at those airplanes. So what happened, the Army intelligence was afraid if we will not be behind that wall, they think maybe people at the civilian airport with binoculars will see us with all the gears and everything, with all their cameras and binoculars, and people might speculate that something is going on. So about an hour later, immediately, Hercules C-130 came right there next to the wall. We jumped in. The three vehicles were strapped to the ground. Everyone jumped. I sat on the floor right there at the entrance, and we took off all the way down to the bottom tip of the Sinai Desert, to Sharm el-Sheikh, to Air Force Base number 29. We arrived in Air Force Base number 29 at around 2:30, and we were called for a briefing, the final briefing. We were sitting in a hangar, and a big hangar, and Dan Shomron, the General Dan Shomron, he was the commander of the entire mission on the ground and was part of the people who planned the operation. So he told us, guys, the morale of the people in Israel is very, very low. The morale of the Jews all over the world is very, very low. 3 years ago, Yom Kippur War, we lost 2,596 soldiers and 10,500 soldiers were injured. The entire country is in mourning. You guys going to bring the morale back. You guys will bring the hostages, and you guys going to come back, no injuries. Everybody is coming back. This will lift the morale of the Jews all over the world and, of course, the people in Israel. Immediately after that, he said, he turned around and he said, I have to talk with maybe he talked with the chief of staff, Motagur, maybe he talked to somebody else, I'm not sure. He turned around and picked up his phone, and he turned back to us and he said, guys, run to your aircraft. So the aircraft was right there about 50, 80 yards from where we were. Everybody is running. Believe it or not, I did not run. I did not run because of one reason. I was the second soldier jumping out of the aircraft in Entebbe, Uganda, from the right door. It was another second soldier on the left door. So I knew first to go in, last to come out. So I know if I'll be last, I'll be first coming out. So I just went, I arrived all the way to the aircraft, jumped in, And of course, I didn't have any room to sit because everybody occupied the seats inside the vehicles. And at the back of the aircraft, you have enough room. But at the front, at the beginning of the aircraft, you don't have any room. You did not have any room because the Mercedes right there occupied most of the space. So there were 15 inches on the right side of the Mercedes and 15 inches on the left side of the Mercedes. And by the way, just to take you 2 minutes earlier, when I ran or walk fast to my aircraft, the only thing I looked at the Jewish star on the back of the aircraft. And I said to myself, this is what we live for. And then I jumped into the aircraft. Now, what exactly happened in this mission? How many people? This is extremely important. In this mission, we had 4 Hercules C-130. Hercules number 1 was on the front, and 2, 3, and 4 were in the back. Hercules number 1 was the only aircraft that allowed to land in Entebbe, Uganda for the first 7 minutes of the operation. It was like we were a guinea pig. I was in the first aircraft. Like guinea pig, if something happened to us, they will have to rethink what to do because we didn't know if there is any truck or anything on the runway. There are stories that it was a fire truck over there. I don't know. I didn't see any fire truck. So aircraft number 2 had more soldiers and more vehicles. My aircraft had 64 soldiers and 3 vehicles. Aircraft number 3 had refueling equipment. The government of Israel thought we will refuel our aircraft in Entebbe, Uganda, and fly back to Israel right away. We could actually refuel 1.5 aircraft or just 1 aircraft. And the government of Israel said, abort the idea of refueling. Just don't worry about it. And aircraft number 4 was empty. We also had 2 Boeing 707 flying with us. I didn't see them, but 2 Boeing 707. I saw them in Nairobi, Kenya. One was a flying hospital and one was flying command center. This aircraft was, while we are doing the operation, the flying command center was above us, circling all the time, connecting us with the headquarters in Tel Aviv. Next thing was how many soldiers we had in this mission. We had 212 soldiers from several units. We had pilots, co-pilots, flight engineers, doctor, paramedics, refueling technician, psychologists, communication specialists, and Army intelligence personnel. Lieutenant Colonel Yoni Netanyahu, the brother of the former Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, and the future one, Benjamin Netanyahu, Lieutenant Colonel Yoni Netanyahu was a commander of one of the segments of the operation. It was to the old terminal. Yoni Netanyahu went to the old terminal with his team. And General Dan Shomron was the commander of the entire operation on the ground. There were a total of 95 hostages and 11 crew members. I was 21.5 years old. And a lot of people ask, wait a minute, you joined the Israeli army at age 18 and you need to finish at age 21. How come you were there at age 21.5? I was such a great student in high school that I needed to repeat a year twice. So that's why I joined the Israeli army at age 19. My father wasn't happy. Wasn't happy about my academic. Only later on I started taking things seriously. but was very proud of me and my brother joining this unit. I live in Calabasas, California, and I'm a member of Chabad of Calabasas. The mission lasts 90 minutes. Now, I want to tell you a very, very important part of my life, how I became such a lucky person to meet you on the screen. Maybe one day we will meet, and to meet maybe 30,000 more Jews all over the world. I moved to Calabasas about 20 years ago, and in 2009, 2008, we moved in Calabasas. My wife told me, you know, when you drive to the near the high school, there is a big menorah. You have to be careful. I said, okay. Why? She said, it's the menorah of Chabad. You know, guys, Chabad, they can put the menorah, they can do anything they want. So I was careful where I was driving over there. And one day I met this person with the beard by the name Rabbi Eli Friedman. We met at a function, and he said, are you an Israeli? I said, yes. He said, why you don't come to shul? We have Chabad over here. I said, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not coming. He said, listen, we teach Tanya every Wednesday. And I was working back in the days in a high-tech company, Rabbi Bukit, with Rav Noi. And I was working in this company, and the owner of the company was Chabad, from Chabad. And every Monday, we will have a shiur with Rabbi Schusterman from Beverly Hills. He would come, and he will give us shiur, a lesson about Tanya. And I loved it. I loved it. And when Rabbi Friedman said, listen, we have a class of Tanya, I said, absolutely. He said, what is your phone number? I gave it to him, and it was a mistake. So Wednesday night, I'm eating dinner with my family. All of a sudden, Rabbi Friedman called. I didn't answer. My wife said, why you didn't answer? I said, it's the rabbi from here, from Rabbi Friedman. I just don't want to talk. Again, he called. And then she said, honey, it's the rabbi. So I answer. He said, Sassi, we're not starting the class until you come. I said, okay, I'm coming. So I didn't eat dinner. I drove. It's 5 minutes away from my house, 2 minutes away. So we became very friendly. And he started asking me, tell me, why you don't come every Thursday for Shacharit? I said, I don't know. It was actually 2008. Very, very bad time for people like me because of the real estate problem that we have in 2008. I'm in the construction. I have a construction development company, and I didn't have any work. And so he said, why you don't come every Thursday for Shacharit? I said, okay, I'll come. And every time I go for Shacharit on Thursday, he would tell me, why you don't come for Friday? Friday we have Kabbalat Shabbat. I said, okay, I'll come. And then he said, why you don't come for Saturday morning? We have a prayer. We have luncheon. And then why you don't come Sunday morning for Shacharit? But I went to Chabad. And but I have to tell you guys, I was very, very sad. Very, very, very sad. All the time, worried and worried and worried. And the rabbi told me, Sassi, what's going on? Why you are so concerned all the time? I said, Rabbi, you have to understand, I don't have any work. One daughter go to University of Arizona. One daughter go to the University of Wisconsin. My son goes to a Jewish school. I don't have money for my family. He said, don't worry, it's going to be okay, don't worry. I was sure. He said, don't worry, he's going to take a big list, long list of projects for me. But he said, I said, yes, Rabbi, what, you said, don't worry, what do you mean? Do you have anything for me? He said, yes, sit down. He brought me tea, we sat, it was evening after one of the shiurs, and he said, leave it to him. I looked at him, and I didn't say anything. Said, leave it to him. So I came home. My wife said, did you talk to the rabbi? I said, yeah, I did talk to the rabbi. And what did he say? I said, he said, leave it to him. He said, honey, be serious. What did he say? I said, honey, he said, leave it to him. So I started to leave it to him, and I came more and more to our synagogue. But I was very, very sad. And the rabbi is telling me all the time, be a hero, be a hero. Don't worry about anything. Be a hero, be a hero. I said, Rabbi, you told me so many times, be a hero. I think I'm already a hero. He said, what do you mean? I said, I was in the raid on Entebbe and this. He said, no. I don't believe it. I said, yes, I was in the raid on Entebbe. He said, oh my God. So what he asked me, he said, can you give a presentation to our Chabad? I said, absolutely. So several months went by, and I gave a presentation to our Chabad. People came from different Chabads in the area. And guess what? The following morning, I am getting a phone call from the rabbi. He said, Sassi, can you fly to Australia? I said, yes, I can, but what? He said, I'll call you back. 20 minutes later, Sassi, can you go to New York? I said, yes. What are you talking about? I'll call you back. And again, he called me. He said, Sassi, I'm sorry. I'm not your agent. I said, Rabbi, what did I do? He said, Sassi, I put the fact that one of my Chabad members was in the raid on Entebbe. And you guys should read a little bit. Rabbi Bukit was talking about it, about what the Rebbe said about the raid on Entebbe. It was a miracle. It was really, really, really a miracle. And so he said, listen, Sassi, I put it on the Shluchim website, 3,500 Shluchim saw that you were in Entebbe, and everybody's calling me. I'm giving them your phone. I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, I'm not sure, Sassi. I'm really busy. So I started getting phone calls from 1,000,001 rabbis. So, and of course, I went to Chabad day after day after day. I just want to warn you, you join Chabad, you cannot get out. So what happened, I started flying to Canada, to many places all over the country and the world. Since then, I was in Australia, Canada, Panama, England, South Africa, Mexico, Switzerland, and all over the United States. I just want to tell you, you join Chabad, you see the world. And I hope you are laughing for my joke. I have to tell you, I sometimes see Chabad congregations or buildings, tiny buildings, and I just can't understand it. How people start. Look at your own rabbi. Rabbi Bukit and Hani came to Florida in 1989, 31 years ago. 31 years ago, and I'm sure they started in a small apartment probably, and slowly but surely 2016 you got one of the best beautiful Chabad house. And of course the rabbi came with Hani and kids probably, and you see where you are right now. And we have a special connection with Rabbi Bukit, because Rabbi Bukit is the brother of Ruchi Bukit, the mother of our Rebbitzin, and it's very, very tight connection we have over here. Also, Rabbi Kramer. Rabbi Kramer is from Montreal, and he moved to New York, and in 2016 he joined you with Shana from South Carolina, and I'm sure all of you guys are amazed and happy, because my rabbi, Rabbi Eli Friedman, wrote a very, very interesting article after the Shluchim, the National Shluchim meetings this year. You know, you look at the rabbis, guys, you look at the rabbis, all of them black and a black jacket and white shirt and beard and this, and everybody thinks this guy is the same as this guy. Everyone is a different story. And thank God for the Rebbe that did this thing that called Chabad. And we gather and we have places to be together just in order for us to fulfill our thanks to God. And the changes that happen to me, thank God, is I put tefillin every day. I put tefillin every day and I said, thank God. I thank God for every moment that I live in this world, and thank the Rebbe for giving us Chabad. Just one story that I'm not sure if a lot of people know, that the Rebbe, when he used to go to new Chabad houses, he used to tell his secretary, get me 10 tefillin, 10 talits. And he will visit that place, and they left the talits over there in that Chabad. So when people come, they already have the talit. It's just amazing stories about our Rebbe. And again, Rabbi Bukit and Rabbi Kramer, Hani, I thank you very, very much for what you're doing for everybody, for all your community. So we took off from Air Force Base number 27 in a formation. I was in the spearhead of the formation with the Air Force Base. I'm sorry, aircraft number 1, Hercules C-130 number 1. After an hour, we needed to fly very, very low, very low. You're talking about 30 feet to 60 feet above sea level. I remember it was so cold inside the aircraft. We needed to fly very low in order to avoid radar detection. But if this is an international route, everybody can fly. Why did we need to fly so low? Because of the radar detection, radars from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, from Yemen, Sudan. Because we flew in a formation, and aircraft and commercial aircraft do not fly in a formation. Now, when we flew very, very low, how the lead pilot knows that aircraft number 2 is behind him? How does he know? So aircraft number 1 is right there, and then aircraft number 2 come from the back and approach and looking at the other pilot and said, I'm here, everything okay. And aircraft number 2 and aircraft number 3 and aircraft number 2, 3, and 4 did the same thing. We are here. Immediately when we approach the Djibouti and Eritrea, we turn southwest toward Entebbe, Uganda. This, ladies and gentlemen, at that moment, the pilot got the okay to climb up to 20,000 feet because the pilots did not, one second, excuse me, okay, I apologize. And what happened, they did all those, they start climbing up to 20,000 feet because all those countries, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, they are not as advanced with radar detection. So the pilots climbed up to 20,000 feet. This was the worst moment of my military life. You know, every time you deleted from any mission, you feel like it's the worst point of your life. You know, every soldier is training for 24/7 for 3 years. And all of a sudden, and the whole thing, we are training for missions all the time, or war. And this is what you want to do. You want to take part of a mission. And all of a sudden, they will tell you that you are out of the mission. And that's what happened over here. I was part of the mission all the way from the beginning to end. What happened during the entire flight, I was under the Mercedes. I didn't have any room to sit. I put my gear on the side. I went under the Mercedes, and I was right. You cannot sleep. I can tell you right now, you can't sleep. I was under the Mercedes, just trying to rest my mind, but you can't. So my knee was bent under the Mercedes, and it was like maybe 15 inches. You can see from my face to the top of the engine to the bottom of the car, it was about 15 inches or something like that. So what happened, I was laying right there for the entire flight. And all of a sudden, when the aircraft climbed up to 20,000 feet, we went into turbulences, up and down, up and down. And when the Mercedes went up and down and my knee was bent, boom, it hit my knee. I thought I am fainting. The worst thing that I thought the kneecap was broken, and to continue, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I have to take part of this mission. And I immediately thought about taking off my shirt, cutting my sleeve and cutting the other sleeve, and tie my knee, and so I will be able to run. And guess what hit me? You would think what hit me would be the metal, the car. The actual car hit me. The car made of metal. You remember the license plate of the Mercedes? Nisui Beton, concrete testing? The Army Corps of Engineers of Israel is so smart. They casted the entire Mercedes at the bottom with concrete. In case hand grenades, the Ugandan soldiers will throw a hand grenade under the Mercedes, the concrete can withstand an impact of explosion million times better than if they will steal piece of steel to protect the engine. Because if this Mercedes would be dismantled, you wouldn't be able to drive it. 9 expert soldiers will be disabled, will not be able to meet the surprise effect. And additionally, they don't want, of course, they need to drive very, very fast. So actually, concrete hit my knee. So I decided to drag myself out slowly, and just to see the disaster. I was sure I had like bleeding and all those things. To my surprise, nothing, no bleeding. But I poured cold water on my knee, and it was painful. And I started walking up and down, walking the 6 feet that I have over there, maybe 6 meters, to walk toward the cockpit back and forth. My commander saw me. He said, "Sassi, are you scared?" I said, "Me scared? Of course not." He said, "Did you pee on yourself?" Because he saw the water on my knee. I said, no. I was drinking from my canteen, and because of the turbulences, I spilled water. But in general, after maybe half an hour, did not feel any pain. And everything was just perfect, thank God. So we approached Kenya, we approached Uganda. So immediately after, above Lake Victoria, all 4 Hercules in a formation were right there. And as the first aircraft to land in Entebbe, Uganda, we approached the landing strip and we landed in Uganda. Guess what happened at that point? Before we landed, they told us, you remember we got a white hat during Friday night with the challah? They gave us this specific hat. This is the very hat I took with me to Uganda. The Army intelligence knew that the Ugandan going to turn off the lights on the runway, and they are going to turn off the lights in the airport. So in order for us to see each other in the dark, we needed to put this hat right there and run to our target. We landed. Nehemiah Tamari jumped first. I jumped second, and the rest of the soldiers, and we start running 600 yards to the new terminal. Behind us, other soldiers left and ran stretched on the runway to put portable lights for the next aircraft because we knew they would turn off the lights. And then the 3 vehicles left and drove off all the way to the old terminal to save Mr. Perez and the rest of the hostages. When we ran to the new terminal, you remember, I had a brand new radio. So the radio was on my back, of course, and all of a sudden, Dan Shomron called Nehemiah, but you are storming, fiercing, running toward the terminal, the new terminal. So he called Nehemiah, but I'm not a rookie soldier to say, wait a minute, I will give you Nehemiah. I'm not a secretary. I said, this is Sassi. We are on target. And again, Nehemiah, are you on target? I said, this is Sassi. We are on target. And then he screamed again. I was in the spearhead. Nehemiah was first. I was next to him. Ehud Ariel on the left side, and the rest of the formation was right there. So I said, we are on target 3 times. And then Nehemiah turned to me, Sassi, what's going on? I said, the radio is not working. So, what's going on? I said, so I turned around, everybody lay down. We lay down, I took my knife, I cut the headset. This is the headset. Look, this is the headset right here. I cut it from here, from the back, this on the back, and this is exactly the headset that I use over there. But this is from eBay. So what happened, I cut it, and I could replace it within 20 seconds. I called Yaakov Gal, my friend in the back. I said, I took the one that I cut, I took the handset, I put everything in my shirt for the whole mission. And I said, because we don't leave any traces behind. So what I did, I cut it. My friend took it. I said, take it from the pouch, take the extra handset from the pouch. Remember, brand new radio. And he snapped it. And I said, Dan Kansasi, Sassi is here. We are on target. So everything went okay from that point. We ran into the terminal. At the meantime, another team ran all the way to the radar area. Ran all the way to the radar area. Is about 700 yards from where we landed. And then Yoni Netanyahu and his team drove with the 3 vehicles to the end of the runway and made a right. We were in a distance from Yoni's team about 3/4 of a mile. And from the radar, from the control tower, about maybe 900 yards. So Yoni's team went all the way to save Moshe and his friends. And immediately when Yoni Netanyahu starts storming the runway, Ugandan soldiers were shooting, not understanding what's going on, shooting bullets from the control tower, and the best soldier of the Israeli army was killed right there, Yoni Netanyahu. And I think this part is for Moshe to continue.
First of all, I want to congratulate you. What a fascinating story. All I can tell you, you're lucky not to end up Rabbi Bucket. I don't know if you would have been that famous with him, you know. But the story really, in terms just a few things, because I think that it's such an amazing operation, such a incredible situation there. We are so thankful to you and all your colleagues for what you've done. But just to point out several things, because there's so many details there that I just don't feel that you know we want to uh, touch on all of these things. So basically, in terms of the Entebbe, in terms of where we were when we were separated, okay, they had basically a doorway which they have divided in the middle with a 4x4, and then divided the bottom half, with another 4x4. So to get in and out of the room to go to a bathroom, you had to really crawl through it. In a sense, it was almost like a separation, in a sense, a selection, in a sense. It was a pretty tough time for all of us, especially when we learned that everybody else was going to be released. Now, one personal point about that is that during one of the nights, there was one boy out there that apparently woke up with apparently terrified and screamed because of some kind of thing that he slept at night. I was just basically getting up, thinking about going to the bathroom. The German lady, the red-haired lady, the terrorist, thought that I'm trying to create some kind of a commotion. She ran to me and actually held her pistol straight to my head. And I heard the clicking sound. And I kind of said, listen, I'm not here to create any kind of difficulty. My bladder is full. I just want to go to the bathroom. And she said, why did you scream? I said, well, it's a little painful. So she let me go. But that's one of the things that happened. Now, the whole room was layered with cardboard boxes, which are wrapped in kind of a wrapping paper, this kind of a brownish office type of paper that they use for wrapping. And they warned us that these are also explosives. So if anybody touched those things, there can be a huge explosion. We're all going to die. In any case, the time arrived when the rest of the passengers left, and we were brought back into the main hallway. And the interesting scenery there was that the pilot himself was sitting there, and they asked him to evacuate with his crew. And he said, I'm not going. It was absolutely an amazing, amazing situation there, because everybody wanted to leave. They would do anything. Okay. And then one by one, he asked his crew if they wanted to leave. And each and every one of them said, we are staying. Imagine all the stewardesses, all the plane crew elected to stay. I'm not sure, that this situation will ever be replaced, because I think anyone with that type of a option nowadays is going to run away like a bat out of hell. Okay. So this was very, very encouraging and very uplifting. I just couldn't believe this kind of a miracle that happened right there and then. Now, during the time that we were hostages out there, interesting that Idi Amin would come every single day with his black Mercedes, with his wife, but every day there was a different wife. One day it was a wife dressed in green, a beautiful green flowery thing. The next day would be somebody in orange with a beautiful thing over their head, and different kids all the time. And he would come in and really inform us about the progress that Uganda is trying to have with the government of Israel, and inform us how much he is trying to help us and save our lives. Many, many times he would come up to me and shake my hand. And of course, you can't resist him, but I was absolutely stunned by the size of his palm. I have never seen a palm that big in my whole life. It was absolutely, maybe 8 inches wide in a sense. Now, there are many, many groups during that time that were arguing about what to do. Israelis, they have all kinds of political groups and discussing what to do. Even on the plane itself, there are a couple of hot-headed Jews from Morocco that wanted to take over the plane and jump on the attackers. And there was another group there where they tried to calm them down because they said, you know, all you have to have is one of these explosives and then we all go down. So the same thing happened while we were there. There were all kinds of people who wanted to jump on the terrorist and thought that they can do all kinds of things. In any case, just to tell you how it was in terms of what we ate, they brought us some food. I don't know what it was. I suspect it was maybe giraffe food. I think that I mostly ate those tiny little bananas from Uganda. Until now, I love bananas because of that. In terms of the day of the rescue itself, we were all sleeping on little mattresses out there. It was 12 o'clock at night when we heard cocking of guns. And I said to myself, oh boy, here are the Ugandans coming to try to save us, or maybe the terrorists are trying to kill us. And then from a distance, I heard this little voice in Hebrew say to lie down. And I looked up, and there was that little soldier who was holding the rifle next to him. I think the rifle was taller than him. But at that moment, he looked to me like a giant Samson. You know, it was just an amazing, amazing sight. I could never be, so happy in my life. And of course, shooting, going back and forth. And unfortunately, a gentleman who had the same kind of experience that I had in terms of missing a flight and taking that flight. His name was Jean-Jacques Maimoni. He was, I think, maybe a 20-year-old kid that postponed his flight because he wanted to fly with his friend, who was the son of the ambassador to Israel. And he ended up on that flight, and he was basically lying down in front of me. And there was a lull in the fighting when he just jumped up and was shot by gunfire. I guess people thought he was a terrorist, and that was basically the end of his life. I can tell you that the scene outside was incredible in terms of not being approached by any Hollywood movie, because what you've seen around was all the Ugandan MiGs blown up in fires, one after the other. There were armored half trucks that rolled up in front of the old terminal, and we all ran to the half trucks. We loaded up on the half trucks, and then the half trucks took us all the way to the Hercules, which is probably 200 meters away. The situation on the plane itself was just fairly not as elated as we would think that everybody think. I've seen the movies, everybody's singing. I don't think that was the case. The reason for that, when we have Yoni Netanyahu lying on the ground right next to us, was covered in aluminum foil, and we knew that this is one of the commander that died in the operation itself. It was a long flight back, and all I can tell you that there was no sleep there. It was just being at awe as an individual as to the magnitude of this amazing rescue operation and the incredible courage of people that have sacrificed their life to save a fellow Jew. I can tell you that from a personal point of view, the thought of other people sacrificing their life for you, it was at times quite difficult to comprehend and quite difficult to accept. And this was something that we all were thinking about, I think, on the long flight back home. In a sense, the operation itself was just a series of one incredible miracle after the other. I can tell you that many years later, a good friend of mine who was dying of lung cancer was lying in the intensive care unit in one of the hospitals in Boca. And I came to visit him, and there was another gentleman out there. And the sick person looked at us and says, "You know each other?" And I looked at the other person. I said, who's that person? He told me that's the pilot of the Hercules that flew us out of Entebbe. And he was telling us that the entire landing of the Entebbe operation was just an incredible miracle because there was no lights as they landed down, and the tires were just inches away from the very wet and very thick mud of Lake Victoria. So if those wheels would have ended up in that mud, the plane would have never been able to get out. So just one of these things. There's so many issues out there, but I let our friend Sassy take over and maybe answer some questions. Be happy to be here and talk to you about that. I can tell you that my mother, who passed away, was telling me that she was sitting in our house in Connecticut on the day of the rescue, which was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Connecticut time. And they were sitting there in a group of people in the yard, and suddenly they see this deer that just came maybe 50 feet away from them under a tree and just stared at them. And he stood there for about 15 minutes. Now, this is a fairly urban area. I've never seen a deer in this area. And the whole group's open. And my mother said to everybody, "My son is safe. This is a sign from above, just like the sacrifice of Isaac." And that 5 o'clock was exactly 12 o'clock in Entebbe. And that's exactly the minute that the operation began. So that's one of the amazing miracles that I still to this day find it so incredible and so inspiring. And I think that it is an incredible privilege to be part of this larger than size and larger than Hollywood type of a rescue mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to open up now for questioning. I'm unmuting you, everyone.
Oh, just 1
Mike,
second. One
oh, you
second.
just-
Oh, 1 second.
I missed the end of the story.
1 second. Sasi,
Okay.
go right ahead.
Okay. So we flew from Entebbe to Nairobi, Kenya, and refueled and took off all the way back to Israel. And the interesting thing, we arrived in the of the 5 o'clock in the morning. When it turned on the radio, it says it was the first time that I said, "Oh my God, we did something big." He turned on the radio for 5 o'clock in the morning news in preparation for soldiers save all the hostages. And I want to talk exactly what Moshe said about this great miracle.
Okay, it looks like we might have
You
lost
lost it?
We lost him. His connection was really bad at the end there. It looks like we
Okay.
lost. Oh, he's got back on.
Yeah. So what happened, everybody is saying, "Oh my God, the Israeli soldiers are amazing. They are unbelievable in this." Guys, if, as Moshe said, that we didn't have all those miracles, one after the other, all the miracles in the world, this operation will not be able to materialize. Additionally, I just want to tell you, let's not forget our brothers and sisters. When the hostages in Entebbe, Uganda needed us, we were there. In 1940, 1945, in Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, in Dachau. There were no one. So I go all over the world to share my story and tell everyone, Israel is a home. Whenever and wherever Jews in need of help, we will be there for them. Am Israel Chai. This is the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's open up to see if people have questions. You can
Can I ask
unmute-
something? Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Moshe, did you speak about the diary you wrote? Did you mention that? I don't remember. Did you mention Moshe, doctor? Did you mention that and how you wrote that diary?
Yeah, I wrote a diary on the bags of the they have those bags of Air France, the seats where they're called the vomit bags. If you get sick, you write on it. And basically what I did is I folded them and put them inside my shoe just in case somebody would look at it or anything of that sort. So I basically recorded. There was no cell phones at that time, so I just basically handwritten all the different communication between the captain of Haifa plane to the passengers. So I basically wrote the exact time and the communication. I kept it as a diary, and this was later on published in the Israeli newspapers and then made it into several of the books.
Also, was there religious Jews in that group, and did they make a minyan? Did they do any religious activities there?
I'll tell you, a lot of the religious Jews, I think, had there were a couple of Jews, I think, from Belgium, and they had some Belgian passports, so they were very fortunate to have left, and we're very, very happy for them. We felt that anybody can get out of there should get out of there. Of course, being young at that time, in my mid-20s, you never think that anything can happen to you, of course. That's coming from ignorance. And, you always think that somehow something will happen. How? I don't know. We were laughing. Maybe the Israeli arms will come and save us. Yeah, sure, 4,000 kilometers away. How are they going to get here? But that was basically it. But I think that the important thing is, as the group themselves were there, they're always fairly resourceful in trying to find some ways to get out of there. All kinds of plans, from taking over the terrorists, taking their weapons, shooting them, and all kinds of ideas out there. And there, some people were more moderate and had to kind of calm them down and maybe keep them under control, so to speak. So it was a very, very interesting time. It was incredible to see the type of personalities that emerged out of it, and that really left an everlasting impression upon me.
Anybody else has a question? Anybody
can unmute themselves if they'd like. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
So my name
I have
is.
I wanted to know what was the age group of the people that were on the plane? The youngest.
Oh, the youngest kids were, I'm sure there are a couple of babies there, but some of the kids maybe 10 years old, and I remember a couple of kids 12 and 13 and 14 years old.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to say something, Moshe. Do you hear me?
Yes?
Well, Moshe and Sasi, I'm going to prepare you a next breakfast tomorrow morning. It's going to be hard-boiled eggs and pita and coffee.
Well, make sure that you invite Sassy too, because he may not show up after all this preparation that he had with the eggs in Israel.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Marvin, yeah.
Were there any plans? I mean, you obviously didn't know that you were going to be rescued. Were there any plans how developed were any self-rescue plans? How far along did they get?
Didn't hear the question. Maybe somebody can repeat it.
The question was there any in-house plans? Did any plans like get developed? Like what would be plan B if you weren't being rescued?
Do you know the Israelis? They're crazy people, right? And everybody's a manager, and well, a commander in the army, and everybody. There's no regular soldiers in Israel. Nobody was a regular soldier. Everybody was a commander, and they all had some kind of plans. Everybody had some kind of a plan, what to do, how to do it, and things of that sort. And then there were the intellectual groups that were kind of like thinking about politics and how Israel can maybe accommodate what the terrorists wanted to have. Again, it was a very unique time. I'm not sure at this time that type of negotiation would have not taken place. I have no idea. Could be a different time altogether. Those days, no negotiation. Basically, it was like, it is what it is. We'll solve the problem. And incredibly, that led to one of the biggest miracles ever. Because I think that if you think about the likelihood of something like that actually being successful is just incredible. I mean, it was a deck of cards. All you had to have was one little glitch and everything would go. As a matter of fact, that pilot that I talked to, the intensive care unit.
I'm gonna ask him something. I can tell.
You have to mute yourself if you're not asking a question. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
So no, I'm just kind of like just giving you just another little angle on what that pilot was telling me. He said to me that the minister, Shimon Peres, at that time, did not give him permission for the operation because he said, how are you guys going to land up in the middle of the night in Uganda? And the pilots gave him a Bubameister story that they have this incredible device that can help them land at night. In those days, there was no such thing. You're talking about 1976. So Shimon Peres says, okay, I'm going to meet you at Sharm el-Sheikh in 3 days. And I want you to demonstrate to me that you can do it. Without it, it's no go. These pilots went to Sharm el-Sheikh, and for 3 days, all they did is practice takeoff and landing with blindfolds. Okay? When the time arrived, they could fly this plane in the middle of the night with blindfolded. And Shimon Peres became convinced that they do have that particular incredible navigation device and gave him the permission to go. So you see where all this thing was nothing but a deck of cards. All you had to have is one thing go wrong and all this stuff will come out. So from statistical probability, it was impossible. So that's why, look at it nowadays as being just one incredible miracle that I have no idea if anything like that will ever be replicated again in this type of a format.
Did
I
you?
have a question.
Yeah. Okay. Go.
I have a question for you. My wife and I wanted to know, this is Stuart Flate, if the hostages have kept in touch, if they formed any kind of a group and keep in touch to this day?
I think a lot of them do, it's just sometimes geographical distances, but a lot of the passengers did keep in touch, and I get all kinds of invitation to attend one of these meetings and so forth. I don't know, sometimes I think about it, when I was a child, I used to have some great memories of little gardens that I used to play, and I used to think it was huge. It was like Disney World. And one day I went back with my wife and we toured this thing, and it looked so miserable that I said I shouldn't have seen it, because all it did is ruin my great memories of that thing. So my feeling was that, keeping in touch and communicating, that's great, but I'm not sure exactly where just meeting every year, as a meeting to just recount the stories was anything that I had the time to participate in, but it doesn't take away from the greatness of that particular operation.
I want to ask Sassy a question.
Please.
When you went out on this operation, what was the statistic? How did they tell you like how many people would come alive and how many people would die in this operation before you went out?
We always come back alive. We never,
I know.
no, we never calculate casualties or
No.
injuries. Never.
Interesting.
But we know the chance is there. We know it's dangerous. We know. But I have to tell you one thing. What happened? It was the end of my service, and I managed to have a phone next to me. So every time I call my parents, you know, you crank the phone, you get an operator, and from the operator, she will dial for you to your parents. And I'm talking to my parents like 2-3 times a day. And all of a sudden, I stopped talking. They didn't hear anything from me for 3 days. And the operation happened. And my mother asked my brother, which he was in my unit also, but 3 years prior, she said, Eli, please, I'm really, really worried. Is it possible the Satsi is there? That's why he didn't call for 3 days. He said, Mom, don't worry. They take the best of the best. He's not there.
Some brother.
Listen, you know, really, it's a great, unbelievable story. And I really need to thank Moshe, because no, he's not this kind of a person who gets on public and talks this way. But Dr. Moshe Peretz, I really want to thank you for speaking. And, you know, and I agree with, I think you should become famous. You should go out and speak, tell your story. And I asked you that many times, but I know that you're very hatzna alechas, as they say. You don't like to talk in public and speak and say a story. I think this is, you know, maybe the second time that you have spoke publicly this story. So, and over the last, and I knew that you were a hostage many, many years, but you never wanted to speak. So I thank you. I know it's hard for you, and I appreciate it. And you know, it says that when it comes to your day, you have to make a Suda Seidah is a day that is actually on that day of the liberation. The Abishah gave you a second life. So, and one of the things that you have to do is you have to repeat the story. You have to tell the story. So you did it. I really appreciate it. I know it's hard for you to do this, and I really do appreciate you coming and telling your side of the story. And even when I asked you to go on the fly, you said make it small, make it small letters. So I really appreciate my Abishah should give you a long life, and you only live a happy and healthy life. Sassy, nobody you can't thank you enough. Your Mesiras Nefesh that you did then. I'm sure you did it many times over your life, and the Abishah got to repay you for your self-sacrifice. And there's no question. I started off this program that the Lubavitch Rebbe. There's one tzaddik in the generation who appreciated your self-sacrifice. Was the Lubavitch Rebbe. He appreciated your self-sacrifice.
Thank you.
So
you know, Rabbi, unfortunately, after I finished the service, they called me for the reserve for a special thing, and I almost got killed. I was shot, and they almost amputate my leg for 7 years. 7 years they were planning to amputate or not, and thank God, I suffer, but I have my both legs. Thank God.
Baruch Hashem, as you said, Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.
So Baruch Hashem, July 4th is self-understood that Am Yisrael Chai, that you live on, and Eretz Yisrael Chai, and we're all going to merit to meet each other in Atzenu Agdesh in the Holy Land, and for the ultimate greatest operation, which is taking out all Yidden from Galus, taking out all Jews from exile, and all, you know, in the movies, they showed the landing in Israel as a big celebration. Was it that way? Or it was that way?
Yeah. It was unbelievable. I didn't see the passenger. He showed the passenger.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It was incredible.
So when they landed, it
was like the whole country was
Wow.
celebrating. I've never seen. It was like it's like Lag BaOmer,
Wow.
except on a huge scale of the whole country. It's just like nowhere that you didn't go that people didn't want to hug you and tell you you know how happy they are and so forth. You know, it's incredible the degree of Mesirut Nefesh, not only from the people who actually took care of the operation, but also the whole people of Israel, the kind of love that they showed for essentially people that they didn't really know personally. So that was just an incredible lesson in country unity, the Jewish people, one nation, wherever you are in the world, and that was just a heartwarming, incredible.
Nobody knew the commandos. The
story.
commandos, nobody knew, right? The commandos, nobody knew who they were. Did they keep that under the wrap?
The what?
The commandos, the Sassy, did anybody know who the commandos were?
To
Okay,
tell
so let me tell you
truth,
what happened.
you know, I think we had some briefing at the airport with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense, and we saw many of the soldiers in there, you know. But to tell you the truth, this thing was like a dream. I don't think that you know, it was like, are we dreaming? Is this real? Or is this just an imagination, a cruel dream? You'll wake up and realize that you're still in this pit, the bottom of the pit. It was just an incredible. So we did see some of the soldiers, but and we saw the prime ministers and you know, I think the general commander of the Air Force, his name was with a mustache. I forgot his name whatever, you know. So he was there too. So it was just an incredible celebration. I mean, people were just surrounding us as we got out of the plane, the family, the news media. I mean, we were absolutely just like didn't realize the impact that this whole operation had on the whole nation, not only on Israel, but really the entire world. That was just one incredible experience.
You know, I just want to give you just a little bit experience of my experience. What happened, we had the briefing immediately after we landed in Tel Nof, and we didn't land in the same airport as Moshe. We landed in Tel Nof, and Moshe, I think, landed in Ben Gurion. Am I right, Moshe?
Yes.
Yeah.
We landed first in one airport, which was a military airport, and then we were flown back into the into the civilian airport.
Yeah.
We're actually briefed and told not to
No.
disclose any details of the operation itself, because things were really still just incredibly, you know, development. I don't think that. I'm not sure that from the point of view of risk assessment, you know, I don't think there's any commander in the world or even any prime minister or any minister of the government that would have taken the responsibility for allowing this operation to take place. And still you have so many soldiers who really were fighting to be on this operation. It was like, you know, an incredible desire to be on that operation, which was, you know, from the way that it looked, it would have been almost a suicide mission in a sense, because I think the reason why it also succeeded, because it went against all the wildest analytical analysis of what the feasibility of this thing is. And I think that even the terrorists and the German terrorists and everybody else did not really even dreamt that Israel will fly 4,000 kilometers on planes and rescue us from some dark airport in the middle of Africa, you know, right on the shores of Lake Tanganyika, Lake Victoria. It was just an incredible thing. I mean, it's just so impossible that I think that's what made the operation possible.
What do you want to say, Sassy? When you arrived back, how was it?
So what happened, we had the briefing after we landed in Air Force Base number 8 near Rehovot. And we had several hotel directors. They came over, they gave us vouchers to stay in their hotels and all those things. I want my mother's food. It was more important for me. So they gave us, our reward was 24 hours to go home. So I didn't have any other choice but to take all my equipment with me, because I wasn't in my army base to leave the equipment over there and to take my gun with me only. So I took all my gear, the radio and everything, with the hand grenades and everything. You never take it home. So in order for me to get home, I needed to have a hitchhike from that base all the way to the main road. And I was standing right there on the main road and hitchhiking. And luckily, 1 in a million, it was, first of all, about 80 kilometers, 90 kilometers from Beersheba. I lived in the south. And my next door neighbor stopped. My next door neighbor was driving and he stopped for a soldier. They didn't know it's me. He stopped for a soldier. And it was a pickup truck and open in the back. And I jumped. I put my gear on one of the seats. I put my head under the gear, on the gear. And my next door neighbor and his wife sitting together. And it's a pickup truck. So she opened the window to the back and she's looking at me. She said, "So, Sassi, what do you think about those heroes?" I said, "Yeah, God bless them." Of course, I didn't tell her I was there. So I arrived at home and I knocked on the door as a joke. And my brother opened the door. He happened to be after work. He opened the door. He's looking at me with all the equipment. He said, "I have one question. Where were you last night?" And I said, "Yes, I was there." So is all the happiness in Israel after that day. It was just amazing, as Moshe described.
Well, thank you. I think we went over our time a long time. Thank you, both of you. Really, thank you from Calabasas. Send my best to my nephew and my niece.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Moshe from Boca.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It was a wonderful, great evening. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. And may we only meet on Simchas and happy occasions. And have a wonderful and beautiful Shabbos.
Thank you.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Almost looked like he was acting. It was the weirdest thing I